And so with that, Kyron will take over and walk you through the data submission, and I'll be back for the course.
Thank you, Nate. So Nate discussed the file types that you are expected to submit for Fall 2. We will delve more into the details of the staff related files, which are the staff demographics and staff assignments. Okay. To be able to establish ownership of a staff, you have to submit the staff demographics file. This includes essentially the SEID of the staff member, since that is an essential identifier for the staff, and be able to link that staff member to the credentials that will be used for assignment monitoring. So you gain ownership to a staff by submitting the staff demographics, contains the SEID and all of those other good stuff related to staff member, the demographics, the staff service years. After submitting the staff demographics, you also have to submit the staff assignments. The staff assignments essentially tells us what are the roles that these staff members are playing, are doing at the district, right? Are they teachers? Are they credentialed pupil service staff? Or are they credentialed administrators? So the key word here is credentialed, right? So what does that mean? So that brings us to who you should be reporting in CalPAS for Fall 2. So essentially, you need to report all credentialed staff who have SEIDs, okay? That's the bottom line here. They need to have a SEID. How you acquire the SEID, whether you go through the normal credentialing channels or you acquire a certificate of clearance from the CTC so that they would issue your staff member a SEID that you would report in CalPADS. Okay, so by all means, let me just bring up, Nate mentioned the Fall 2 roadmap earlier. So this section here was just lifted from the CalPADS data guide. But this provides you a laundry list of who are expected to be reported in CalPADS and who you should not be reporting in CalPADS for Fall 2. Okay. And bottom line is you can submit a staff demographic record and a staff assignment if you don't have a valid SEID. Okay. So that alone should give you pause in reporting your staff members. So again, you need to report credentialed staff members with credentialed pupil service credentials or admin credentials or teaching credentials, right? And then, of course, for staff members who are teachers, you have to report the teacher of record, meaning the teacher who is contractually obligated to teach the class on census day. So I spoke about acquiring a SEID. So if there are teachers who are not certificated, you have to acquire a certificate of clearance from the CTC so that the department will provide you a SEID, which you will use in submitting the staff members' information in CalPADS, right? So if you have a non-credentialed charter school admin or non-credentialed charter school teachers, you have to at least acquire a certificate of clearance while they are basically trying to get their normal credentials. So part of the staff demographic file are this information here. These are the essential information we will need from you guys to determine, as Nate mentioned, inexperienced teachers, or if we have effective teachers based on their credentials. So all of that ESA criteria that Nate mentioned earlier would be based on what information you will be submitting on the staff demographics, staff assignments, and of course, the courses that you will assign to teachers. So for staff demographics, we need you to tell us the employment status, the staff, and this is optional for non-teachers. So employment status is only required for staff members who are teachers. For admin and pupil service, this is an optional field. Now, the required fields for everyone is the staff service years LEA and staff service years total. This would help us determine, especially for teachers, if they are inexperienced teachers or not. So meaning if you have 1 year or 2 year teachers, then they are considered inexperienced, which again, you have to submit and accurately submit your staff service years. So CalPADS does not automatically add an increment of a year every time you submit a staff demographic record in CalPADS every fall too. You have to manually add those years in CalPADS in your SIS and submit it to CalPADS. Then, of course, you have your staff highest degree, which determines, of course, their abilities in terms of the degree or honorary degree that they have acquired. So again, I've mentioned about the staff service years. Staff service years has to be judiciously and reported in CalPAS. You have to make sure that you have the correct years. Otherwise, if you haven't updated your newly minted teacher last year or 2 years ago, then CalPAS will still consider the teacher as inexperienced. So for teachers who are starting this year, their staff service years would be 1, okay, regardless if they just started 6 months ago or less than 6 months. So part of the staff records is the teaching assignment. So for teaching assignments, these are essentially for your staff members who are teachers, obviously. So these are the teaching assignment codes that you submit when reporting the staff assignment record in CalPAS. You have your regular teacher 12, your non-certificated charter school teacher 26, and itinerant teacher 27. So part of the, as I mentioned, part of the staff assignment collected are these. So essentially, when you submit your staff assignment file, it contains the job classification that the staff member is credentialed in. Now, if a staff member is not assigned to a class, meaning they're either admins or pupil service staff or teachers who are not assigned in a classroom, then you have to submit their non-classroom based assignment codes. Now, you also have to tell us at what site are they assigned to? What school site? Are they at the district? Are they at different schools? And then, of course, you have to tell us the full-time equivalency percentage, which reflects the full-time job spent by a staff member for each job classification at each site. Okay. So for staff job classifications, we break it down into different codes. So for credentialed teachers, you have here 3 codes. Again, you have teacher, charter school non-certificated teachers. These are the ones who you acquired a SEID through the certificate of clearance path. And then, of course, you have your itinerant teacher. These are your teachers who do not have a permanent site or permanent class. And then you have admins, 10 and 25, and pupil services. So for job classification, CalPAD only allows a staff member to have a job classification between 5% to 200%. So this is the total job classification that a staff member can have at one academic year. So this can be achieved by different scenarios. So let's say you have here an admin who is just solely working as an admin, then of course their job classification would be 100%. Now, if you have a staff member who is just devoted to teaching, then again, you can have a 100% teacher. Sometimes you have staff members who are admins and teaching at the same time. You can split their FTE percentage based on the amount of time they spend. So maybe this could be 50-50. It could be admin 100 and 50 teacher. So bottom line is it should not exceed 200%. And again, the division of this FTE would be based on the job classification and at the school site. Okay, so let's say if you have a teacher who is assigned to a classroom and at the same time doing non-classroom work. Okay, so maybe they're 100% teaching and then they have a 20% FTE for that non-classroom responsibility. So you now have 120%. When you submit a staff assignment record for the same job classification at the same school, you only submit one record and reflecting the 150% FTE. You don't split those two because CalPAS will prevent you from submitting two similar job assignments or staff assignments for a teacher. So here is a matrix of some scenarios that are common for fall 2 reporting. I won't delve into all of this, but I'll just have to focus on the teacher of record and substitute teachers and push in pull out. Okay. So for teacher of record, we expect you guys to submit to report the teacher of record to a class in CalPAD. So anyone who is a teacher of record on census day who is employed by the district, regardless of if they are on leave or not, must be the assigned SEID to the course. You cannot assign a substitute teacher SEID to a class if there is an employed teacher of record. Okay. However, if the teacher of record is on leave, this is the way you have to report them in CalPADS. You submit their staff demographics, you submit their job classification under the staff assignments, and then you report them with a non-classroom job code of 6018, which is teacher on leave, and then you still assign their SEID to the course that that teacher is teaching. Okay. You can't just tell us that the teacher of record is not teaching a class because they are basically the contractual obligated teacher to be teaching the class essentially. So when do you report the substitute teacher SEID to a class? You only do that when there is a vacancy for that class, meaning the teacher of record left before census day, they resigned, your district couldn't find any suitable staff member to get hired before census day, and so you are left with substitute teachers. That's the only time you report the substitute teacher SEID to the class. So you essentially send up the SDM, you send up their staff assignment code, either a 12, 26, or 27, and assign them to a course. Optionally, you could also report a non-classroom job assignment code of 6014 if they are also a long-term or day-to-day substitute. And then, of course, you have your pull-out, push-in teachers. These are your itinerant teachers who are assigned to classes providing EL services, or your special ed teachers who are handling RSP classes, or maybe your high school or middle school or even elementary teachers who are teaching band or music or PE that doesn't require rostering a student to their classes. So these are your push and pull out teachers. For that scenario, you submit a job classification of 27, assign them to the school site where they are doing push and pull out classes, and assign them to a course that is probably 9103 or 9104 if they're doing push and pull out classes, or for special ed, you assign them to the RSP state course code of 9231, or assign them to the specific band, PE, or any push and pull out course that that teacher is assigned to. Do we have any questions that are brewing that hasn't been?
No, your voice elicits nothing but awe and silence, Kyron.
I'm rocking them all to sleep.
You need to put the underwater effect on.
Okay. So moving on to the next slides, we've introduced 3 non-classroom job-based code assignments this year. So in prior years, when you have a teacher who is assigned a non-classroom code, but there's no specific non-classroom job code assignment that you could pick on, you normally just use 60/20. However, 60/20 is so broad that the state or even you couldn't even identify the specific job for that teacher, right? And so we've introduced additional non-classroom based assignment codes this year, like your TOSA 60/28, SPED Case Manager, Program Coordinator, School Site. So these are specific teacher non-classroom based codes that should be assigned to staff members who are not handling classes for SPED. Okay, so or for any other class essentially. So let's say if you have a SPED case manager, before you report them with 60/20, now you can just use 60/29 to be specific. So how do we report SPED teachers? So this is also a common question that we get on the service desk, and we normally always have to emphasize. So for SPED teachers, there are actually three scenarios that on how to report them. Number one, if a SPED teacher is assigned to special day classes that is solely for SPED students, then you could either report them with a 1,000 self-contained course, and then make sure that you mark that course as 700 special education under the instructional strategy code. So there are some teachers who are teaching maybe departmentalized courses. So just the same, if that is the case, you report that teacher to one of the departmentalized state course codes and assign that 700 special education code for that course. You only do this if that class is really for special ed students. Because if you only happen to have a general class and a SPED student happen to be in there, that doesn't mean you have to mark the class as 700. This should only be marked, classes or courses should only be marked 700 when it is really for special ed students. Okay. And then you also have your RSP teachers, which I mentioned earlier. These are your push and pull out teachers. So you assign them to state course code 9231 and flag them special ed as well. There are RSP teachers who are team teaching with regular classes in elementary or high school, regardless of the grade level. They are team teaching. For those, do not report them as team teachers to that specific state course code, because you will be dinged for that. You have to separate the RSP teachers class from that mainstream classes. And so with that, you do that by just reporting the RSP teacher with the 9231 and reporting it as a special education class. So by doing that and also reporting the teacher with a 27, you're able to account for the teacher's credentials, you're able to account for the teacher's class without having to roster students to their classes. Okay, so the combination is job classification 27, assign them to state course code 9231 with instructional strategy 700. Okay. Looks like Marshall.
Oh my
I didn't know you had you do deep
Yeah.
sea diving, Marshall. Is
I
this
didn't
during
know.
your Mexico vacation?
I think so.
Marshall
Nate's
loves to go to Mexico, maybe in Baja.
Nate's all